if you're socially awkward, you're probably obsessed with yourself. If you can't make friends, you're probably obsessed with yourself. I think a lot of issues come down to that. You think about yourself too much. You think about whether people are going to judge you. You think of the fact that they might think you're awkward or boring or weird because you care too much about yourself. You're self-centered. I think that's... I mean, hey, this is just my opinion as a friendship coach. I'm not, just feel free to disagree with me. But I know that I used to be obsessed with myself in different ways. It manifested itself in different ways. And one of the ways was feeling awkward socially. I think that's what confidence is, really. When you're confident, you just don't care what people are going to think of you. Some people think that confidence is thinking like, oh, I'm the man, I fucking rock. But no. It can be that. But I think it's mostly just being at peace with who you are and just doing your thing, and then whatever happens, happens. I'll find my people, and some people will not like me, and that's okay. People who are socially awkward and people who talk too much about themselves have a similar problem. And the problem is that they think too much about themselves because they care too much. They want validation. Like the guy who talks too much about himself wants validation. He wants to show how cool he is or whatever. And the person who's socially awkward and doesn't talk much doesn't talk much about themselves because they're afraid of being invalidated, let's say. That's how I see it. In both cases, they just think too much about who they are, about what they're like. Anyway, that's my point. I think that's what's at the core of it. And you may think, oh, that's not true. I don't think about myself enough. In fact, I think too much about other people. Well, that's the same goddamn thing. If you think too much about other people and not enough about you, it actually means you're a people pleaser, which means that you want people to like you, and that's why you're a people pleaser, which is the same thing as thinking too much about yourself. I don't know, man. That's kind of my philosophy. I think just people think too much about themselves. And hey, it's not like I never think about myself. I'm making videos and I'm posting them on YouTube. Like, I'm basically saying, hello, people. Look at me. I have important things to say. I'm not saying that makes me a narcissist, but I'm not saying, by the way, that you should never think about yourself. You should respect yourself. Those are two very different things. I'm not saying, put other people's needs before yours. No, that would be being a people pleaser. So it's more subtle than that. Now, of course, what can you do to not think about yourself so much? Listen, I don't have all the answers. This might be beyond my scope, but I'll give you one mindset shift. And a lot of this stuff is about changing your mindset. I talk about mindset shifts a lot. And this is probably yet another thing that I'm going to write about in my newsletter, which you can find down below in the comments and the description. If you want to read my stuff and not just look at me, then check out my newsletter. So the mindset shift is, instead of being worried about how comfortable you're going to be socially, about what people are going to think of you, remember that a lot of other people are also concerned about that. A lot of other people also think about themselves too much. So when you go to a social event and you feel a bit anxious about it, or you're not anxious, but maybe you feel awkward there, those are not exactly the same things. Focus on making other people comfortable. And that's a win, you know. Worst case, you make other people more comfortable. So that's the worst case, you make other people comfortable. Best case, you also become more comfortable yourself. And you're going to feel connected with people, you know. When you remember that, you know, you're not the only person who's having all those silly thoughts. You know, if you're at a social event with, let's say, 20 people, man, like at least 5 of them have some degree of social awkwardness or anxiety, or just they think about themselves too much. Probably 10 of them, like half of them, you know. Just assume that you can make others feel more comfortable and try to do that. Not to the detriment of your own self-respect and well-being. Again, you know, those are different things. So that's one way to focus on other people instead of just focusing on yourself. But that's my point. You know, people think about themselves too much. And it's just, I'm just some dude, you know. Maybe you'll disagree and you'll write some hateful comments, which is cool. You know, I'm cool with that. It helps with the engagement and all that. And I enjoy disagreeing with people. You know, I enjoy talking about these things. I want to find out when I'm wrong. I want you guys to humiliate me with the truth. You know, just let me know I'm stupid. This is my opinion. This is how I perceive the world. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts about it. So please share your thoughts with me in the comments. You know where they are. That's my point.